broadcasting from the Unshackled studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's WilmsFront featured interview show, coming to you on Friday the 14th of March 2025. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube channel, the WilmsFront Rumble channel and the WilmsFront Odyssey channel, which I double checked while I was playing the countdown music, are all working swimmingly, unlike last week's program where there was a bit of issue with all of it. So that's great. Hello to everyone in the various chats. You're welcome to ask my guest questions tonight. It's episode 200 of WilmsFront, a significant milestone since I debuted the show in September 2019. It is 8:15 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria. My guest tonight is Dang Powell, who went viral after he attended the National Workers Alliance Australia Day celebration in Melbourne. He was interviewed by some vlogger who questioned him about his attendance and views.
I was with the NSN group before.
Yeah. And so, who are you, and why are you here?
I'm here just to bring back Australia Day.
Fair enough. With the NSN.
Yep.
It was a bit touch and go there for a second with the anti-Australia Day guys.
Yeah, it didn't touch me anything. Yeah. Their seam is black, so no problem.
Yeah, fair right. Do you reckon? What do you like most about Australia?
Barbecue, day off and shit like that, Yeah.
What do you reckon's your least favourite thing about Australia?
Just Aboriginals, the mourning and shit.
Yeah. Why don't you like them?
I don't know. This land's actually built by European settlement. Before then, there was just nothing but tribes.
Yeah, fair right. And now, what would you say we got instead?
We got nothing but multiculturalism.
And you're into that, or you're not into that?
I'm not a fan of multiculturalism.
Dang, welcome to WilmsFront.
Hi.
Now, I heard that when you approached the National Workers Alliance event on Australia Day, so it was outside Rod Laver Arena because they decided, the Australian Open, to not recognise Australia Day, you're wearing a mask, and the police asked you to take it off before you could partake. Why did you turn up?
The reason why I turned up is because I was fed up with Australian Day. It was being cancelled by the Labor government. Initially, it was being cancelled because of COVID, but the Labor government is doing it on purpose to actually, to exclusively allow Aboriginals to have their own say of Australia Day. Well, we have no say in our Australia Day parade.
Yeah, the Melbourne CBD, it's a no-go zone for people Australians who want to celebrate Australia Day. So Neil Erickson and Ricky T, they were removed from the Melbourne CBD on previous Australia Days for carrying an Australian flag. Ricky T was almost lynched by the mob that's allowed to gather.
Yeah, I actually remember watching the video of Neil Erickson getting lynched and getting arrested for having Australian Day flag in front of the Flinders station. I remember vividly.
Why did you decide to, at first, wear a mask when you were attending?
At first, I thought I was wearing a mask because that's how Anderson actually use the optics to hide their identity so they don't get the bank account closed and stuff. But it turns out the laws actually don't allow people to wear masks.
Oh, well, the anti-Australia Day people who attempted to gate crash, they were allowed to wear masks.
Yeah, they're allowed to wear masks because wait, hold on,
I'll turn you up here.
Yeah. People can barely hear me because I don't know, because my webcam is pretty shit.
I can hear you clearly. I've turned up your microphone.
Yeah, it's just only Margaret that actually barely can hear me. But what were you saying about the question again?
Oh, yes, the Antifa, they're still allowed to wear masks, or they claim that they're still cared of COVID.
Yeah, I guess the cops actually did to serve their agenda, you know. Anyone who's outside of the leftist or the centrist is considered a enemy, public enemy number one.
Now, just for the record for our audience, the event wasn't a NSN, National Socialist Network event. That's what I'm not sure who he is, that vlogger, but there were National Socialist Network members in attendance, such as Jacob Hergent and Hergent. I always get in trouble for mispronouncing it. And
Where there was Jermaine Roberts and
yes,
I recognised few of the faces from the NSN EAM. I actually said hi to them and they actually no animosity to me.
yeah, I remember I've met them on previous occasions and they've been cordial to me. I actually met Jermaine Roberts before I knew he was a Nazi, and he was quite friendly towards me. And then when I saw him appearing on live stream in swastikas, I was like, oh.
Oh, hold on. How do I respond to the questions?
So I'll prompt you. So I'll put Margot's question on the screen. Where are you from originally? Were you born here or were you born in the Sudan?
My dad came in 1984, and my mum came in 1992 for arranged marriage, and I was born in 1996. I'm almost 29 in a few days, and I was born in Australia, obviously.
What was your experience growing up in Australia?
I had like a normal upbringing, you know. I have friends, I have white friends, I have all sorts of friends, all different backgrounds.
So, what radicalized you to be a pro-white black nationalist?
Well,
There's some sort of
oh,
music I can hear in the background of where you are.
that's my niece's room. Sorry about that. So, so what made me a pro-white activist was back in 2015 when Blair Cottrell, Munro, and Chris Shortis actually came to the scene and called United Patriots Front. They made headlines with a fake beheading. That one made me that one made me a pro-white nationalist. Even though I'm black, I cannot be white nationalist, even though I'm black.
Well, you can be obviously pro-white, and you believe that Australia should remain predominantly a white country.
That's correct.
Now, Sudan is what is the remainder of Sudan is predominantly Muslim, and what is now South Sudan is Christian. Were your parents originally from like what is now South Sudan, which is
Yes.
and were you raised Christian?
Yes, I was raised a Christian. I was raised a Christian, but I've never been baptized before because my dad actually wants me to have a choice for whether I'd be baptized or not.
So you were radicalized by Blair Cottrell, Neil Erickson, and Chris Shortis. I think that's why the government of Victoria decided to prosecute them under the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act, because, well, they probably didn't know it at the time, but you're one example of somebody who was radicalized by them. So what happened after that? Did you consume more nationalist content online, or did
Yes,
you...
I consume a lot of nationalist content online, mostly anti-Islam content, and I used to be a regular poster on the United Pages front page before I deleted the scrub from Facebook in 2017.
And when did you decide to get active? Did you connect with anyone in real life? Did you engage in any real life activism?
Well, I did at one point when I put anti-Semitic stickers in Monash University. That's when the counter-terrorist cops actually came, raided my home, and took one of my computers, phones, stuff. And it took me nearly a year to recover them.
What did the stickers say?
Well, it's just mostly White Lives Matter stickers. You're familiar with White Lives Matter on Telegram.
Yeah, there's nothing... I don't consider that slogan to be anti-Semitic, neither. It's okay to be white.
There was like a propaganda like says Jews bad news. It says like something niggers and Jews bad news. With the Jews with the hat on the head, and with the money it says rents hike goes up. There's as in they're actually like the Jewish landlords are very corrupt.
So you actually have no problem using that word, the N word?
Yeah.
So what were you charged over? Because obviously it would be hard to charge you over being racist against yourself, but obviously it would have been the anti-Jewish element of the stickers.
That's right. I've been charged under the religious and racial vilification laws and made threats to the Jewish community, which I never made threats to them before in my whole life.
So when did this occur? What year?
2022 to be exact.
How did they know it was you?
Because the CCTV camera caught my car while I was driving off the Caulfield campus of Monash University.
Oh, so it was the Caulfield campus.
And the Clayton campus as well. I got away with putting some pro-white propaganda at Deakin University, Box Hill, Swinburne University at Montana South, but they didn't charge me back because nobody can find me.
Why did you target the universities? Have you been to university?
Well, I never started university, but I try to actually spread propaganda so people can actually join White Lives Matter group through Telegram.
Obviously putting stickers at Monash University Caulfield, Caulfield is a heavily Jewish suburb, that would have been considered very provocative by the authorities.
Yeah, it's correct because when I was a Uber driver for 3 years from 2019 to 2022, usually sometime I'll go around Elsonwick, Caulfield, pick up Jewish customers, and they're actually pretty nice people.
So if they were nice to you as customers, passengers, what's your issue with the Jewish people as a whole then?
Well, the Rothschild family actually own our central banks, 99% of the central bank worldwide, you know?
Oh, that's one family.
And what else? They actually own our central banks. They actually are responsible for hate speech laws, hate crime laws, and they actually are responsible for abolishing the White Australia policy in the 1970s.
Well, it hasn't worked out for them well, given that they've advocated importing a whole bunch of people from countries who hate Jews.
Can you say it again? I couldn't hear you. My audio has cut.
Sorry, I was saying that multiculturalism and mass migration hasn't helped the Jewish community. They were much safer, it can be argued, under the White Australia policy, because obviously they've imported people from countries which hate Jews.
Yeah. The Arabs actually don't like the Jews because of the land, because they actually occupied Palestine for the last 70 odd years. And most Arab countries have huge animosity to Jews, and they actually deport them all to Israel without killing them.
Now, when you were raided and had your devices seized, you live with family, so obviously it would have, the news would have been immediate that you were being arrested for anti-Semitic stickering.
Yes, I was arrested and anti-Semitic stickering, but I never made headlines. But it put a lot of pressure on the family, you know.
So did they know anything about your views until you were arrested?
Yes, they knew about my views when I was arrested. They actually read my briefing papers when I was charged. But it never made headlines, luckily. Otherwise, it would have caused a huge outcry worldwide.
Well, isn't it newsworthy that a black man has been arrested for anti-Semitic stickering?
No, not really. Unless it was a white guy that did it. If it was a white guy that did it, it would have made headlines by now.
Well, that's one of the reasons I've invited you on the WilmsFront, is because what you've done is very unique, to put it mildly, for a black man in Australia to do.
Right.
So did your family, after you were raided and arrested and charged, did they try to have some sort of intervention for you?
Not really. They just wanted me. They just said, "Oh, this plan to have moving arrangement means I have to live on my own or something," because I got arrested twice in the 2 years in a row for committing crimes committing crime spree.
So has it been before the courts?
Yeah, it's already been in front of the courts. It's already been settled, and I already completed my 15 months good behaviour bond, and I'm still paying $5,000 fine as a result.
And you actually, I heard, were remanded for a couple of days in the Melbourne assessment prison for breaching bail. How did you breach bail?
I was simply driving taxis. I was just driving taxis to make a living, and I actually.
How was that a breach of your?
I got my phone tapped.
How was that a breach of your bail conditions?
Because I wasn't allowed in the municipality of Monash and Glen Ira because they have strict bail, and plus I was on a curfew between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
So was it breaching the curfew, or
yeah, pretty
going
much
into the
just breaching the curfew and municipal ban.
So there were more severe consequences for you breaching bail than there has been for many of these Sudanese youths running around with machetes, robbing businesses and committing home invasions.
Yeah, these type of people should be deported along with their families. If they keep committing crimes again and again, then they should leave Australia for good. We ain't one here.
Do you does any of your family know any family whose children have been recruited to these gangs?
Yes, I know someone from high school that I met as a Gakuf. He from year 7, 2011. He was actually a good boy until he actually became gang member and, uh, and used a lot of drugs.
How are they recruited? Like, how does it work? Is it older Sudanese men who recruit them?
I don't know, to be honest.
Where is
Because
it?
I don't really talk to these people, to be honest.
Has anyone tried to recruit you? I'm just trying to get.
Never, because I was an introverted person at the time. I don't really go out in my early 20s, late teens. I just focus on work and stuff, keep my nose clean.
I'm just trying to ascertain how there is this disproportion in South Sudanese overrepresentation in these violent youth gangs.
Yeah, most of the Africans are actually predisposed to violence, which makes them commit heinous crimes against other people. But Australia was actually generous of bringing thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of South Sudanese people in Australia between the year 2000 and 2005 during during the middle of the Civil War, during the Civil War between the early 80s and 2005. So we were generous at bringing them the country, and they actually brought us nothing in return.
The apologists for them, which can be either black or white, say, oh, it's the Civil War trauma why they're committing these crimes, and also because white Australia is racist to them, so they have this resentment, and so this is how they lash out.
Well, they have the audacity to use the racist crowd so they can commit heinous crimes, you know?
Now, you said that they should be deported, but I'll just use you as yourself for an example. You were born in Australia. Do you have South Sudanese citizenship through your parents? I'm not sure how it works there.
My dad doesn't have a South Sudanese citizenship. I'm not sure how it works, to be honest. But I have family friends that still retain a South Sudanese citizenship and work in government.
So that would be the issue, that a lot of these they'd be considered Australian under sole Australian citizens under Australian citizenship law. So it's quite hard at the moment for our government to deport dual citizens, dual nationals. So we're stuck with a lot of them as things stands. It's not easy under the current arrangements to deport them.
Well, it's not that easy because we don't have a national socialist government that are willing to do mass deportation. It's unlikely we will have a white Australia, or let alone a national socialist government that would actually do a mass deportation policy, you know. It's not easy.
Though the National Socialist Network leaders, Thomas Sewell, they deport you as well. You told Mark Collett you want to stay in Australia. They might give you a first class plane ticket to South Sudan and deport you last, but they'd say you'd still have to go.
Well, people need to actually build strong nations. So in order to build strong nation, we need people with we need builders, people with high intellect, and college graduates to actually help build strong nations. You know.
So is that your argument? Part of your argument about why you should be able to stay under a National Socialist hypothetical Australian government?
Well, if I have a choice to go, I will just have a dual citizenship, so I can actually go to Ethiopia for a few months just to work and
Well, they'd probably
meet
make it
more people,
dual
then come to
citizenship
Australia just
illegal.
to visit and earn money.
They'd probably make dual citizenship illegal.
Which is, I don't know. I'm most likely I'll stay in Ethiopia and actually make money as a cab driver, truck driver, or any other type of driving jobs.
Have you been to South Sudan at all?
Never even stepped foot in Africa, so I'm planning to go to Africa later in the year. I'll just have a great reset, just to clear my mind.
Obviously, you've had family who have been born and grown up there. What have they told you about the country?
They said that the country is actually very, very chill. Depends on which side of Ethiopia. But in Gambela province, where my parents came from, the border town South Sudan, Ethiopia, is actually very chill. It's more like a rural town. And people actually live there, like people actually work mainly as agricultural.
What's the standard of living like? Obviously, it would be nothing compared to Australia.
Well, the living standards is actually pretty poor. It's actually considered an undeveloped country. But if we actually get people on board to build a country, then we will actually compete with Asia and Europe.
Why do you think that South Sudan is so underdeveloped?
Is because we have a corrupt government. We don't have enough. We don't have enough builders. We don't have enough intellect, and it's actually considered a fairly young nation when disproportionate amount of the population are under 18.
Well, the remainder of Sudan, that's going through yet another civil war. So there was a number of countries last year that evacuated their embassies, and there's last time I looked it up, there was 10 African nations where there's various forms of civil unrest, civil war, militias. So why does this keep happening? I mean, Sudan has had multiple civil wars. So was the Congo. There's another civil war there, and this is occurring decades and decades after the white European nations left and allowed these nations to be independent.
Well, you can blame the foreign aid for giving these corrupt governments a lot of money. If we didn't have foreign aid, and the nature would actually take its course by culling the population down to the pre-colonial levels, so they can learn to sustain themselves. You know, people who have like some severe low IQ wouldn't make it past their 5th birthday, like you did back in the days.
Yeah, I agree that foreign aid, it just, as the saying goes, it is money taken from poor people in rich countries to give to rich people in poor countries, and pretty much all of the money that Bob Geldof raised in Live Aid for Ethiopia just went to corrupt officials and some more weapons for their... Well, the famine was caused by a civil war, not because there was a drought. It was caused by communism, actually.
Yes, this type of regime, the communist regime, is actually about killing their own people. They don't care about their people. They want their own people dead. Similar to the Holodomor in Ukraine and the Great Leap in China and the USSR. They actually keep oppressing their own people who actually oppose the communist system. And East Germany, North Korea, anyone who don't support communism will get locked up or killed.
Well, back in the Cold War, the Soviet Union gave a lot of foreign aid and military weapons to various communist African governments and militias, and there's a lot of communist Chinese loans to African countries so they can build their Belt and Road and get all the resources back to China.
Well, I have no comment about it because I haven't really learned much about Cold War history.
But it's obviously you agree that foreign interference is part of the reason why African nations have remained underdeveloped.
Yeah, that's true.
And now a lot of pro-migration, the advocates in the West, including some on the conservative side of politics, such as Ben Shapiro, say that we should import the best from the rest of the world, and that a brain drain from other countries, including African nations, is good. But would you be of the opinion that means that African nations, if they lose their best people to the West, they can never it reduces their chance for development?
Yeah, I don't really believe in Africans migrating to Europe or Western country would be a good idea unless they're studying temporarily and come back to the country. They'll be fine. If it's like a student visa, they'll be fine. But if it's like permanent, then they'll not be beneficial for the African economy. I mean, the pro migrant groups that are actually part of the leftist regime, which is supported by both sides of the government, centre left and the centre right. And the property lobby group has been told by the Joel Davis show last night, because the property lobby group, all they want is to bring more migrants from Africa and Asia in order to build more homes and increase the cost of living, increase the price of food, increase the price of education, increase the price of the housing market. We've already seen right now that housing crisis is getting worse because our government is actually sponsoring Indian migrants, and despite having illegitimate qualification, this can still work straight away and be incompetent in the job.
Well, it's been a long time Ponzi scheme for our federal governments to mass migration so they can collect more tax revenue, and also so the economy looks good on paper, GDP, even though per capita the Australians are getting poorer, and state governments, to keep up with the mass migration, have to build more schools and hospitals, and then election time say, look how great we are. We built these schools and hospitals and roads and rail tunnels, which have only needed to be built because we need to keep up the infrastructure.
Yeah, I doubt both of the government would actually care about the infrastructure before opening doors to mass migration.
Well, it helps Labor governments because it gives their CFMEU mates work.
Yeah, the Labor government actually doesn't care about the outer suburbs of Melbourne, you know, because we don't have the enough infrastructure to build more houses for more migrancy to come to the country.
We've seen with pretty much all mass migrant groups, they still identify with their ethnic homeland. They live amongst their own, keeping their own culture, but living in our country because of our high standard of living and the current it's currently more safe here than their home country. I mean, this is conversations that I've had with such people, and certainly the policy of multiculturalism means that there's no incentive for them to assimilate and venture out of Little India or Little China or wherever. We've got suburbs full of ghettos.
Yeah, you can actually partially blame the government for allowing multicultural to happen. You know, multiculturalism isn't about what we call social cohesion. This egalitarian policy is about building ghettos and allowing the migrants to not learn the language or not learn to our way of life. Imagine if we done the same thing in our country. They would get angry at us.
Most other countries, well, non-white countries, I should say, get angry when there's mass migration of other ethnic groups. It only seems to be white nations which they're taught to tolerate it.
Yeah, about that. Only white people can actually get everybody in the country, while Asia for Asia, Africa for Africa, Israel for the Jews, and Arabs for Arabia for the Arabs, and white countries for everybody. I don't know why. Our governments, our corrupt government, allowed these mass migration to come to our country and subvert our people. I don't know who's actually behind it, but whoever's behind it should be convicted under the UN law of genocide.
What is the South Sudanese is there? I mean, you would know, being of South Sudanese descent. What has there been an effort at integration in that community?
No, most of them, some of them don't know how to speak English. Some of them don't want to assimilate. Some of them actually came here to collect welfare and not have any incentive to work. Well, some of them do work, while others just collect welfare.
Were you raised with English in the household, or did your parents speak I'm not sure what the various tribal languages are in Sudan and South Sudan?
There's hundreds of ethnic groups in South Sudan and Ethiopia. So Nuer is actually my mother's tongue, but I wasn't even taught my mother's tongue, so English was my first language. So I can actually speak English proficiently.
What do you think about that you only know English?
Well, it's actually it's actually not that great to learn one language, especially if I have like relatives that don't know English. I just can't really communicate with them. I can't really convey what they say, you know.
Well, it sounds like then they should learn English then, because if they're in Australia, that's the only way to properly assimilate, which should be the policy of our government, which used to be the policy, assimilation, that if you migrate here, you're expected to adopt the Australian way of life, become Australianized. Obviously, we should immediately aim for net zero migration, but for the migrants who are already here and who they can't have their visas cancelled, that should be the policy.
Well, our policy is actually to bring European people only and limit amount of people coming from African Asia. We only allow those with high IQ Asian and African to come to the country to learn, to study in our schools so they can go back home and build strong nations. That's all I want.
So you think that other races should only be here on a temporary basis to study at our universities and then go back home?
Yes, I don't condone xenophobia, but I actually welcome everybody in the country. But there should be a few conditions, like bringing back the White Australia policy means that only Europeans are allowed to come here on a permanent basis, while the African Asian can come here to study temporarily on visas for up to 3 years at a time. Then once they complete the studies, they can go home.
So you support the National Socialist Network, I guess you could call it a policy proposal, that to deport 12 million non-white Australians?
Yes.
Even those who have been here for, like, say, 3 generations, speak fluent Australian accent, don't even know.
Not really, but we have to keep it at least 80 to 90% Australian, while the rest can stay here. While there should be like a minority groups that are allowed to stay here, as long as they don't break the laws or if they don't cause trouble, you know. They can stay here. They're here to stay as long as it's 90% European.
What about, because there's obviously a lot of mixed race people, children here in Australia, half Asian, half African. So I'm not sure if what National Socialist Network policy is on them, but obviously they don't support race mixing. Is that your belief as well?
Race mixing should be a choice. It should be based on choice. People who race mix is none of my business. No, I went to the rally and actually went one white guy who actually marry or date some African lady, which I have no problem about.
It's because there are already, say, Sudanese and white couples. So one of our Socceroos, so Kusani Yengi, he's half Sudanese, half white English. So I want to ask you, because the National Socialist Network would say that, well, that's the end of the white bloodline with that couple. But do you still consider him Sudanese? Like, how does it work in reverse for you?
Well, he can actually choose whatever nation he wants as long as he actually it feels like, as long as he's actually belonging in whatever nation he chooses. If he's Australian, then he can stay in Australia. But if he's black, he can choose by choice. He has no. It's a very difficult question.
Yeah, he identifies as being of Sudanese descent, and this is sort of the I guess you could call it the double standard or the anti-white standard, is that those who are half or even quarter identify primarily with their non-white side. And obviously it's taken to extreme with these light-skinned Aboriginals who they identify solely with their Aboriginality, even though there's heaps of white in them.
I mean, most of them, if they identify as black, then they should go back to the roots. Reconnect with the roots.
But why shouldn't they also recognize their white heritage as well?
Well, in America,
they don't seem to.
African Americans were actually at least 25% white from slavery, and most of them actually still recognized as black. Well, I'll give you one example. Mariah Carey, she's actually considered black in America despite having a white mother.
Oh, well, she looks white. Mariah Carey actually didn't even know that. I guess maybe that's why she's been accepted as a R&B artist, where like white R&B soul rappers are considered cultural appropriators. Do you think that's a real thing?
Not really. As long as they have like black parents, then they will accept in the black community.
Yeah, but what about somebody like Eminem? Is it okay? Is it okay for him to be a rapper?
Yeah, it's okay to be a rapper because hip hop is actually not about race. It's about connecting as one.
Well, we should mention the most famous half black, half white man in the world, Barack Obama. So he had a Kenyan father and a white Hawaiian mother, but he identified as an African American. He was called the first African American president and deliberately chose to marry a black woman, although that's questionable. Do you think Michelle Obama is a woman or a man?
I have no comment on that. No comment.
Oh, answer the first part of my question. That Barack Obama deciding to, even though he's actually not a proper African American, if his father was Kenyan.
So is his father Indian or African?
Kenyan. Barack Obama Senior, Kenyan.
Well, he's Kenyan, so he's actually a black guy. I assume that he's a black guy, even though he has a white mother. He's still black, regardless.
So, I guess you're sort of proving my point that any person who's got black in them is accepted as black, though it's obviously they're not they primarily identify with that part of their ancestry. Do you see what I'm saying? That there is this. This is part of the anti-white agenda, that it seems to be more hip and cool to recognize the non-white part of your ethnicity.
Yeah, and then then NSN would actually simply deport them because they're not welcome yet under the National Socialist regime.
Now, I mentioned the Yengi Kusani. So he's half ethnic Sudanese, but there's also a whole heap of full South Sudanese Australians who are representing Australia. So there's this Socceroo who was actually born in South Sudan.
Well, they should represent their own country. Would it be beneficial to represent their own country?
So this is our Marble, who was actually recognised as the Young Australian of the Year for 2023 for his charity Barefoot to Boots, which gives the young people in refugee camps in Africa sports gear. Here's another Socceroo.
Well, I'll give you one example. There's someone who had to represent the South Sudanese community in the Olympics. There's Lil Dane, who actually formerly played for NBA. He had to represent for the South Sudanese community, and there's like plenty of other South Sudanese.
Did he represent Australia?
Who?
This basketballer that you mentioned.
He represented America. He was in
NBA.
NBA.
Okay. But he was born in South Sudan, or
I'm pretty sure he was born in South Sudan.
There's also that young sprinter Gout in Queensland who was born here, but both his parents migrated from Sudan. There's this debate about whether he is Australian, whether the gold medal that he aspires to will belong to Australia. What's your view?
Well, Australia should be viewed as a ethno-state. Well, if the majority of people are white, then the majority of people white are considered Aussies, while everyone else should be considered by their ethnic background and Australian by paper, if they're Australian citizenship.
So should he be representing Australia?
If he was born in there, he should represent Australia. But if we need more people come to South Sudan, then you should be recruited to South Sudan and represent them.
Well, the reason that when he wins the gold medal, it will belong to, well, it will be Australia's gold medal, is because I don't believe that there would be the sports infrastructure in South Sudan to cultivate his natural talent. I mean, it's the Australian sports system that has got him to where he is. Obviously, the fact that he is South Sudanese means that he is faster than white sprinters. That's just a fact.
Well, then some ethnic groups have good predispositions. You know, black people are fast runners, white people are good swimmers, and I don't know about Asians, but as far as I know, that Asians are actually pretty smart people.
I'm not sure if you follow I've mentioned a couple of the Socceroos. I'm not sure if you follow soccer at all, or it sounds like you're more a basketball fan.
Yeah, I'm more like an NBA fan, but I watched a little bit of soccer when I was younger. But I don't
Yeah.
really pay attention to soccer.
So in the European national championships, it's become a sort of a racial arms race where the French won the 2018 World Cup with pretty much a African side, and so all the other European nations are copying.
Well, the Europeans should exclusively have Europeans playing for their own team, and Africans should be exclusive Africans. And if you go to Argentina, it's exclusively white people because most white people live there.
Well, they beat France in the 2022 World Cup.
And their team is actually 99% white. And Europeans should have kept it that way so they don't lose their identity.
There's some soccer players who are either mixed African or full African who, well, they were born there, yet they still play for the African nation. In fact, there was in Germany, there was two brothers, Jerome Boateng, who played for Germany. His brother, Kevin Prince Boateng, couldn't get in the German team, so played for Ghana because he was eligible. So that's sort of in my opinion, a slap in the face to the country that gave him an opportunity. He goes and represents Ghana, but spends his life predominantly in Europe.
Yeah, most Africans should actually recruit people from their ethnic group from the West, and they should recruit them to come back to their country and actually build their own soccer team. So Europeans can have their own ethnic group playing for their own teams.
The reason why I'm highlighting this is because this is the other contradiction, and I guess you're an example of that. You want to stay here, yet you are a black nationalist, want Africa to be great, and a lot of these, they're just high profile example. These sports stars, they want to identify as predominantly by their African side, but not the European side, but still want all the benefits of our high standard of living. Yeah, it's as you said so yourself. What is going to eventually lift African nations out of underdevelopment is the smart, wealthy ones, the investors, actually staying there.
Well, the African government should encourage the investors to invest in African nations to try to build strong nations. It's not that easy because you keep giving our government money through foreign aid so they can play with the money and do whatever they want with the money, be corrupt. While the people don't want to fight back, don't want to fight it back, or else they'll get locked up or killed.
Yeah, like I said before, that foreign aid, it just perpetuates poverty and corruption. So we've been going close to an hour now, just to wrap it up and come back. So you said you're on a good behaviour bond. What does that involve?
Just involved of seeing a counsellor, engaging with support service and stuff, which I already completed back in June of 2024.
So what do they sort of like ask you?
just engage with whatever support service I actually got and pay my fine and stay out of trouble. That's it.
Do they, because there was this Four Corners a counter focusing on counter extremism programs, and well, they have counterterrorism tried to have an intervention with you?
Yeah, it already lasted about 3 weeks because I was in Medi's chat on Telegram and I actually write his name on it in a chat line, and then the intelligence service actually found out what I did and actually relayed it back to the CVE, and they actually kicked me out of the program permanently, being kicked out of the program.
Well, that doesn't seem like that doesn't seem like they're making much effort if they just give up on people.
Yeah, they actually gave up on me because I wasn't really engaging with their program. No, I was actually fed up with the agenda against NSN, against the far right in general.
Did any of them suggest that you should be prescribed medication? Because that's what a lot of people allege why Kanye West is currently the way that he is, selling swastika shirts, praising Hitler, is because he's not taking his meds. Has anyone ever proposed that you should take medication to cure your racism? That apparently Ye's medication cures him of his racism.
No, medication doesn't actually cure anything. It doesn't stop it at racism, you know. I've been proposed by matter services out there to try to actually eradicate my racist problems, you know.
Oh, yeah, so they haven't proposed that through medication, or have they proposed it?
Well, I'm already taking my medication because I already have mental health issues myself, you know.
What's that designed to do? Obviously, you don't have to disclose that on this program. But like, what's the reason that you've been prescribed it?
It's because I was actually diagnosed with depression years ago.
Oh yeah, that's actually, antidepressants are quite commonly prescribed.
And I actually see like a counselor like a few times a week.
So
And,
is that
in my support service actually is aware about my racist ideology and me being part of the far right, but they actually tried to actually get rid of the racism and get rid of this and that. Tell me you shouldn't be part of the far right.
so they tell you that as well.
Yeah.
Is that what your session, like, they try to steer the sessions towards primarily?
Yeah, mainly about getting rid of racism. You know, I'll never change because I'm actually being part of the far right, seeing political activism for the last nearly 10 years or so. And it's just hard to change, you know. I just don't want to change.
Well, the three who radicalized you, Blair Cottrell, Neil Erickson, and Chris Shortis, they certainly have continued being active, and Thomas Sewell has been around for the same amount of time. Have you ever met him?
I never met Thomas Sewell, but I actually met him through Telegram and actually chat with Thomas Sewell briefly before he blocked me.
Did he block you?
Yes, he actually blocked me because I said I'm going to Africa, and he actually blocked me.
Okay, I guess that's how shows Tom's level of purity, that he, when you told him that, didn't even want to engage with you, which is the opposite of, like, Mark Collette was happy to have you on because he found you fascinating, and he, like, believes that Africans should be left to make Africa great, and that all the other races should just leave each other alone.
Yeah, it's been like that in, I don't know, under the white Australia. There's like been a lot of what do you call it? Right, there's a lot of racial egalitarianism was actually normal. You know, everybody was equal. Aboriginals were sidelined. Unfortunately, there's like a bad side of white Australia when Aboriginal was sidelined.
It's never been like the cartoonish view or history of race relations that all white people did in Africa was enslave and torture. Sure, there was bad shit that happened. The Belgian Congo was the worst, but there was a lot of colonizers who wanted to better those that they were colonizing, whether they were in Africa or Asia. It was called the white man's burden, or it's more common. The derisive term is white savior complex, and this is why foreign aid is still sent. That it's up to the white people to show the other races this is the way.
I mean, the foreign nation shouldn't exist in the first place. If they want to decolonize, then you can actually figure out their own way of building their own country. You know?
Well, that's been the post World War II world order, decolonization. So, well, foreign aid, as you mentioned, is sort of a form of neo colonization.
Yeah, the neo-colonization didn't really work out in Africa because we never even anticipated, we never even been prepared to build like our own nations. The Europeans actually built the borders, and we never prepared to 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 live with multiple ethnic groups that would cause or spark a war. You know.
Yeah, my view is that Australia should look after Australians, and we shouldn't interfere in other nations across the globe, whether that be the Sudans, Ukraine, Israel. I believe that everyone should just be left alone, that people should be able to govern themselves, and I wish them all the best. I let them sort their own nations out. Don't interfere in. No nation should interfere with others unless they're being attacked by them.
Yeah, we shouldn't interfere with their wars. You know, if they need support, then we can actually give them guns or what have you. We can support them if they need help, but that's all we can actually. That's the least we can actually do is actually help them out during wartime. But during peacetime, they should help themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's been fascinating to chat with you tonight, Dang.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll see more of you in the future.
yeah.
And hopefully you don't end up before the courts or in on remand again, and we might run into each other at another rally in the future.
Yeah, I want to actually keep my nose clean. I want to actually stay within the law and make sure I don't get arrested like the NSM because I want to learn
Well,
to
that's what
myself from the NSM. They keep
that's what
getting
my
arrested. They keep getting arrested for no reason. All these bullshit laws. So I have to kind of be careful what I do right now. You know.
yeah. That would be my free advice to you, is that, well, it's now mandatory 12 months in prison for displaying a swastika in public or doing a Nazi salute. That's the federal law, which is pretty insane when you contrast it to the Sudanese youth carjacking, home invading. I mean, if they were given mandatory 12 months in prison, automatically, like, that would certainly have an impact.
Well, I want to add something about the recent charge I got in 2022. Well, the charge was actually dropped in 2024. I actually discovered when I was trying to apply for my security license that my charges have been dropped. And what Margaret is actually saying, I don't want to carry swastikas because I don't want to do anything stupid. And don't be anti-Semitic is the reason why I don't want to be anti-Semitic is because there's actually laws against anti-Semitism because we had a synagogue got burnt down in December and it was actually a false flag.
Yeah, we don't know if that one was arranged by that organised crime figure on the run overseas, but we do know that the Sydney ones were organised by him, that daycare fire.
Yeah, the one in Sydney with the caravan is definitely an organised crime. And actually,
but the police have concluded that all the others in Sydney
to
were.
pass the anti-hate laws.
Yeah, but they're not going to repeal the hate speech, hate crime laws, even though it's the ones in Sydney at least have been uncovered to be a hoax, and they've all dried up now. There's been no more.
Yeah, hopefully Victoria doesn't follow suit. So if so, then
our expanded anti-vilification laws have stalled in the upper house, and let's hope that it's kept that way.
Yeah, hopefully we don't actually pass the anti-hate crime laws, so nationalists don't get locked up for writing something on Facebook or Twitter that would actually be provocative.
Well, it'll go after not just them, but also those TERFs, pro-woman activists who say that women don't have penises and then can't be women.
Which is true. Women can't have penis because they don't have a narrow hip bone.
Oh well, if a woman has a penis, then they're not a woman; they're a man.
It is obvious.
There was that one of the interesting things, did you see Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman? He actually went to Africa and asked them about the trans issues, and they laughed at him and was like, what the hell's that?
Yeah, in Africa they learned that man is a man, women's a women, boys boy, girls a girl. They actually learned that from the young age. So they don't really tolerate transgenderism in most parts of Africa, with the exception of South Africa.
Yeah, so current biology is actually more advanced in Africa than it is in the West at the moment.
Yeah, in Uganda, people get locked up for being gay for life imprisonment. Well, in some African countries like Somalia or northern Nigeria, they'll actually be stoned to death.
What do you think of those laws? Because, well, in Sudan's, it's not the death penalty, but it's illegal.
It's not in Sudan. Is actually homosexuality, LGBT is not a death penalty, but it is punishable up to life imprisonment. But the laws are rarely enforced.
What do you think of those laws?
Well, it's none of my business because people have choices whether they actually respect the gay people or not. It's none of my business to interfere with their laws, you know.
But what about the parades in public?
I would discourage people to not watch it. First of all, I wouldn't want my kids to watch this crap. Why kids are easily brainwashed because of the Marxist agenda? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways, like white people can be their own worst enemies.
Yeah, it shouldn't happen, you know. People should love themselves no matter what skin color they are. White should be white, black should be black, Asian should be Asians, etc.
Like, obviously, I believe it's okay to be white. I think you're allowed to still do that hand signal, and I'm happy being white.
I'm happy to be black, you know, because every race has its own perks, you know. Every race is unique. Not everybody is the same, as has been told by the media. Say all humans are the same, but it's not true. Black people are different from whites. Whites are different from Asians. Asian are different from Aboriginal. We're all different, so we need to embrace our difference.
Well, we're told sometimes that race doesn't matter, then we're told it's the only thing that matters. But it's funny these days that it's actually the Marxists who say that the races are different the most.
Well, they're actually miseducated.
Because they've actually managed to convince African Americans to self-segregate again on college campuses.
Well, the Jim Crow laws they shouldn't abolish the Jim Crow laws or the apartheid laws, since they actually self-segregate themselves because they don't like white people.
But again, this is the double standard. It's okay for black only spaces, groups, organizations, but not white only, pro-white. Oh.
Yeah, if a white person wanted to be segregated from black people, they wouldn't be locked up under hate crime laws.
Well, Scott Adams, the Dilbert cartoonist, he was cancelled for saying that he only wants to live amongst white people.
Well, this is the media that actually cancel him for no reason.
Well, I think we might leave it there now. So thank you once again, Deng, for your time.
Yeah, do you guys have super chats before we leave?
I don't have super chats on YouTube. I've been demonetized, so I've just been putting up questions in the chat, but it all seems to be the only person remaining in the chat because it is getting late on a Friday night. Although there was this question up here by Neil Erickson right at the start, who asked how do you feel about Filipino Asians? Should they be deported?
They should be deported depending on the policies of the NSN. So it's up to the NSN if they want to deport them or not.
Is Margot an Australian?
Well, she looks Australian. She looks Australian to me by paper. Well, if she's Australian, then she's Australian.
Or she's ethnically Filipino?
Well, she's a Filipino by ethnicity, but if she was born here, then she can be Australian if she was born here.
Well, obviously all our children were born here.
So I don't really give a shit. But as Margaret just said, I don't really give a shit what Innocent said. Most Innocent members actually don't really like me don't even like my existence.
Yeah, there's like some who will engage with me, such as Nathan Swindon. No, he's not in the chat tonight, but he's a regular watcher. Yet there's some who will not engage with me at all.
Yeah.
All right, I'll farewell you now. Thanks again for your time, and like I said, we'll probably run into each other again soon.
Yeah, hopefully we actually become a regular segment. Like, there'll be like a segment of us actually doing our own show, like once in a while. We actually come up with different agendas and stuff, you know?
Yeah, maybe. All right, good night.
All right, Ben. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right, Ben.
All right, everybody, that is WilmsFront for this week. I hope you enjoyed our fascinating discussion with Dang Powell. And now I will be back, of course, on Monday with Tim's News Explosion at the regular time, 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So WilmsFront is always on a Monday, though as WilmsFront, I try to get it on a Thursday night, but not every guest is available during that time. So I sometimes have a WilmsFront on different nights, but if you can't catch any of my shows or Unshackled Productions live, then you can catch them on the WilmsFront channels, whether that be YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell for notifications, give a thumbs up, like, comment below, and also please consider supporting the Unshackled, because I can't do this without your financial support as well, even though obviously I enjoy your viewership and your comments. So over on Substack, where I share, I have the Unshackled Productions archive and share via email upcoming Unshackled Productions. You can take out a subscription, $5 per month, annual $50 per year, founding member $500 per year. Or you can take out a premium membership on the unshackled.net. So bronze $5 per month, $50 per year, or silver $10 per month, $100 per year, gold $25 per month, $250 per year, platinum $50 per month, $500 per year. So yeah, the viewership has dropped off because, well, it's a Friday night and the AFL footy is back, which I'm going to watch now. I should do a score update, even though I know a lot of nationalists don't watch the AFL sports ball anymore because it's too woke. So Hawthorn, it is 2.5 minutes to 3/4 time, and the Hawks are up a 12 goals, 678 to Essendon 7-11-53. Hawthorn, the Hollywood Hawks, they're called because of their selfie after the game. They've got a Sudanese player on the team, as does pretty much every AFL team as well. So there's the racial arms race in the AFL as well. I was talking about as well. So that's it from me tonight. I now published 2 reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft this week. So on the anti-Semitism crisis, which we now know from the authorities that all of the recent Sydney anti-Semitic attacks were all hoaxes by organised crime, despite what Sherry Markson, Avi Yemeni and the Australian Jewish Association, they're still trying to maintain that anti-Semitism, that they were primarily anti-Semitic attacks. I'll obviously cover that on Tim's News Explosion, and then Richard also did his own report on Sam Newman interviewing Thomas Sewell and Blair Cottrell. Richard is a regular on Sam Newman's You Cannot Be Serious, appearing at least once a month, and there will be a few more reports from Tiger Mountain since I couldn't publish one last week because I was busy with the Western Australian state election. I did 2 this week, and there'll be likely one on the weekend as well. So good night, stay safe, stay free, stay optimistic, and I will see you back on Monday. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting the unshackled.net to view all our shows. And to keep up with the latest real news,